Hi, I'm Kelsey, and I did my final project on native subsistence living and food security. So, the Alaskan Native culture strive off living off the land, and they do this by hunting, gathering, and creating their own clothes. And they've been doing this from the very beginning. And things have changed, but they still really like live off the land for the most part. They whale hunt, go fishing, seal hunt, and caribou hunt, and there's many other things they can hunt too, but there's just some of them. And to keep these traditions and skills of hunting, they pass it down to the younger generations so then that they all just know how to hunt and do it the right way that their ancestors have done it. So, what I think is really important for their culture, for hunting, they are very respectful towards the animals. They believe that being respectful towards the animals will provide more animals like given to them to be able to hunt. And here's a quote that I found from the Argent Singer and West article. It says Elder Raymond Evan emphasized an underlining mutual respect between individuals within the community that extended to animals. He was taught that human beings are always being watched. Thus, they must avoid messiness and bury the bones of the animals so that they might return in the future. So, this quote kind of just says that, like, if they respect the animals, um, they will receive more in the future. And by doing it cleanly and properly, um, like they're always being kind of watched, so they will know if they are being disrespectful towards the animals, so then there won't be many animals in the future for them to hunt. And nothing goes to waste in this culture. Here's a quote from the Moss article. Mussel shells were chipped and or ground into knives, harpoon heads, scrapers, adze, or chisel bits, and other tools. With little modification, clam shells serve as spoons, ladles, or containers. So, like that quote kind of just says that they use the mussel shells in any way possible, not just eat the mussels, but they use the shells to make these tools that are useful for them. And then with any other kind of like meat that they hunt, the scraps go to dogs. And I remember reading in one of the articles they like give the like the gills and um like organs that they don't eat to the dogs. And then the fur is used for clothing, which helps them keep warm. And the skin, they can use it for tools, also clothing, just in many ways. They just make sure they can use anything they can into their things that they need. And then they have a strong sense of community. Like the whale hunting video that we did watch in the class, I think that really captivated the community sense that they have. So everyone has a job and everyone contributes. And this quote is from the Ransom article. It says, the game animal is considered to belong not to the man who killed it, but to the whole community. Men, women, and children, whether they had any relatives taking part in the hunt or not. This facet of communal ownership is as strong today as in pre-white times and reflects the early Eskimo culture pattern underlining the thin veneer of cultivation pattern today. So, with the whale hunting video, there was the people that hunted the whale, people helped bring it up on land, help cut it up, divide it, bring it to everyone in the community. So there was like roles for everyone, and they all took part in um, like even though they didn't hunt it, they still got a piece because it's just the community that just share and contribute to everyone. So food security. Um, they hunt and gather as often as they can, and especially they need to stock up for winter since winter is so harsh and it might be more difficult to hunt in the winter for some things. They really make sure to stock up because if they don't have enough food to eat, um, it their survival might be jeopardized if they don't have enough food. And the stores are too expensive um, to even get things if they need it. And then the gas to get to the stores is also expensive. There was, from an article, it said like $8 a gallon for gas. So if it's too expensive to get to the store and then you're spending so much to even buy things, like it's just not worth it. And then also in the stores, they don't have their traditional foods, and their traditional foods is what they've grown up to eating, and it kind of just sums up like their culture, and they get the proper nutrients from it, and um, yeah, their culture just kind of hunts, gathers, and they kind of just all celebrate around food. They join together around food. Like food is just a way for them to connect and live in such harsh environments that are away from the city. So westernization has kind of changed their culture in some ways. Um, for one part, the whites taking advantage of hunting animals. I remember reading that the Russians like over hunted the seals because their fur was so nice and they wanted to make like coats and stuff out of it. So they hunted them almost to extinction, like no respect towards the animals. And the Alaska Natives believe that they take what they need and they respect the animals so that they return in the future. And so then they believe that the whites just hunt for fun, like it's just a game. And they don't necessarily need the food, they just want to hunt for fun. And um, so if they don't respect the animals, they're afraid that they're not going to return in the future, which will limit their food sources. Also, with westernization happening, the cities have become more popular for the Alaska Natives to move into because there's better opportunities. They're able to make money. Sometimes the villages can be really hard to live in. There's not that many opportunities, and sometimes they just need a break from um, the struggles of living in a village. So, in some ways, they have adapted, many of them, and they will travel to the city for better opportunities. There's more jobs for them in some ways, but most of them still visit their village and will contribute any way they can so they can make money in the city and then bring back to their village, or they come back to the village for different seasons. And because the village is still like part of their home and their culture, so most of them make sure they still go back there. And women often do better than men because um, men have always just had the instinct to hunt and being able to provide for their family, and with they can't do that in the city, so without that they're kind of lost and they aren't as successful in the city, so they will resort back to the village because that's what they know best, and they're able to hunt and use their skills, and they're needed. And so hunting is very hard in the city. Like you can't just go hunt right in the middle of the streets and everything, but gathering is still possible. That's why the women do better because they can adapt and get jobs, but they can also go back to their roots and pick berries on the side of the highway or whatever it may be. So they do a lot better in the city than the men. And here's my references cited from my final paper, and I've also used some of these quotes in this presentation. So, yeah, so they still provide food for their village by their traditional foods by hunting and gathering. And um, some foods may be not as abundant anymore, and they do have to resort for the stores. But in some ways, like their traditional foods are still nutritious for them because, like the whale fat and everything, it keeps them warm, and that's really important for the winter. So yeah, I think subsistent living and food security is an important topic and should be shared more.